The Giants taking on the Dodgers in a make-or-break series, a player profile on Reggie Crawford, and what they should do with the underrated Giants bullpen. That's all coming up on Locked On Giants.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. My name is Alan Stiles. On the show, we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that combines passion, analytics with the eye test, and a little bit of fun. I'm from the Bay Area, but I live in Sacramento now, and I host a show on Sacktown Sports 1140, the Alan Stiles Show, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Be sure to check that out, as well as emceeing at Sacramento Rivercats games. I'm lucky enough to cover a team that I've been a fan of all my life. The Giants have a make or break series versus the Dodgers, a player profile on the forgotten phenom Reggie Crawford, and how the Giants should handle their bullpen to finish out the season. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Well, it all comes down to this. And obviously, the Giants have a couple more series after this, including another one against the Dodgers. But we always circle games against the Smurfs. And of course, you're going to circle them when there is this much on the line. The Mets are in a complete free fall right now. By the way, yes, the Mets are in a complete free fall, but the Philadelphia Phillies are outstanding. They are outstanding. They're probably my pick, to be completely honest with you. Look, if the Giants get in, we know what they can do, even if they're a wild card. But the Phillies look like they should obviously be the favorite to come out of the National League. They are a well-oiled machine right now, and we thank you to the Philadelphia Phillies for taking care of business. Watching the game yesterday as the Mets jumped out to a 4-0 lead, and the Phillies just didn't blink. I know they're at home, but they just didn't blink at all. And they immediately took the lead, fifth, sixth inning, and just never looked back. So the Mets are in a complete free fall. The Phillies look outstanding, but the Giants, they're not even there to worry about the Phillies quite yet. But the Giants and the Reds, for that matter, they have a perfect opportunity to take advantage and sneak into the playoffs. It's not going to be easy. And obviously, there are more games after this, but this is a huge opportunity. I believe if the Giants win this series against the Dodgers, they will get into the playoffs. That's just plain and simple. I'm not afraid to say it. That's just what I believe. They would pull within one game of the Mets if they're able to win today. And more importantly, this is the series that we've all been waiting for, right? What do they do in a rivalry setting? This thing has gotten ratcheted up every single series, really, for different reasons. Even if it was against a lesser team, there was something on the line because they were trying to build back all of the games that they had lost. Then they have to go to St. Louis. They weren't able to win that one, but at least they didn't get swept. They were able to just hang around. This series against the Diamondbacks, it was tough. It was really tough, but they grinded it out. And again, they are still in a position to take the Mets and take that last wild card spot. I think you especially have to win this series. I know the Giants have 4 more against the Dodgers, but you especially have to win this series because of how it lines up in your rotation. Now, it might line up with Webb and Robbie Ray again, but we know for a fact that the probables, Verlander, Webb, and Ray. And I know that Verlander is not the same name he was 5 years ago, but he's pitched pretty well, and we know that dude is a dog. He is going to compete no matter what. So, it could happen again in that 4-game stretch, but we know it's happening this go-round. As well as where the Dodgers are at, the Giants, they have this opportunity with their ace, with their secondary ace, and with a Verlander who I think a lot of people would take on their team at the bottom of their rotation. I think there are a lot of teams that would look at that. From the Dodgers perspective, just so you know, got Yamamoto, Clayton Kershaw, and Glass now. So this is going to be a battle. This is going to be a rock fight. There's no doubt about it. The Mets are really happy to get the heck out of Philadelphia as they now host the Texas Rangers, and the Reds head to Sacramento to take on the A's. And look, the Reds, you obviously have to pay attention to what they're doing. And I know on paper, They're playing a team in the A's that aren't very good, okay? But one thing about the A's, they are going to compete, and they can hit. They can hit the baseball, all right? So that is really, really fascinating, right? And it's going to be a huge weekend. Even in the American League, there's going to be you got the Yankees taking on the Red Sox. So there's just a lot going on from the perspective of Major League Baseball, and this is what it's all about. This is where you go mano a mano and you prepare for what's ahead, because this is a test, right? You're not just trying to get into the playoffs to get into the playoffs. If you get into the playoffs beating a bunch of bad teams, everybody's still going to be happy about that. But at the same time, you're sitting there saying, well, we're still measuring ourselves against the Dodgers. You don't want to get into the playoffs and feel like you're not supposed to be on the same field with this team, right? And, doing what they did against the Diamondbacks, you feel like you belong doing what they did going all the way back to the end of August against the Brewers, the Cubs. You want to believe that you belong. And this is how you do it, especially when it's a rivalry game, a rivalry series. And obviously you need these games to get into the playoffs. So that's a big part of this too. Outstanding baseball is ahead of us. And the Giants have to prove to themselves, obviously they want to prove to the fans, they want to prove to the baseball world, but they want to prove to themselves that they can do this. They want to prove to themselves that they are at the same level as these guys. And it all starts tonight. The bats, to me, going to be obviously the most important thing, right? When the Giants couldn't hit, they couldn't win. They started winning when they started hitting. It's very simple math. So can the Giants tap back into what they had done recently on this stretch? They've cooled off a little bit, right? Now, nobody expected them to hit at that clip for the rest of the season, but there has to be a happy medium where you can't go cold here because the big bad blue team is in the building. You can't afford for that to happen. This series is it. And the Rangers, who have kind of been unimpressive throughout the season, they've had their waves. They've been waiting to get healthy. They could go in there. They could beat the Mets. They could go in there and completely lay an egg. The Mets aren't going to lose every single game, and the Giants probably aren't going to win every single game. But when you get this close to the end of the season, you have to do your best to match up. And it's not going to be easy. There are going to be a lot of situations where you feel like there are missed opportunities. And I said this a couple days ago on social media. You have to start looking at the days where the Giants lose and the Mets lose. They're not full-on wins, but at least you're keeping your head afloat. It's to the point now where you can't really look at it and say, oh, man, that's such a missed opportunity. I'm not saying it wasn't. What I'm saying is there is such a small margin of error that the fact that the Mets happen to lose when the Giants have lost the last couple times because the Mets have been that bad, just thank your lucky stars for that, because this thing could be absolutely cooked. And we are really in a game-by-game situation here where the Giants have to find a way to scratch and claw and honestly just hope for continued good luck. When you do lose, the Mets lose. And that's not going to happen every single time. And you still have enough series for it to not happen a couple more times. But every series, you have to make ground. Every series, you have to gain ground. And I know it's the Dodgers, but the Giants have to find a way, as they are 1.5 games out now. You have to find a way to gain another game. You have to. Because I think the Mets are already struggle bussing. I think the Mets are already paying attention to what the Giants are doing. They're already in a free fall. They're going to get out of Philly. They had played well against the Phillies, so that's how you know it's going bad for the Mets. But things can change like that. And I think, going back to why this series is so important, I think if I'm a Mets fan, I think if I am the Mets, even though they wouldn't say this out loud, they're also looking at this saying, hey, well, the Giants still have 7 against the Dodgers. That's what everybody's talking about. So if the Giants can handle the 7 against the Dodgers, that changes everything. That changes everything. When we return, will things change for Reggie Crawford, the forgotten phenom, okay, the prospect everybody was talking about, the two-way prospect who has since battled with injuries. What should we expect from Big Reggie in 2026? Don't move. More Locked On Giants coming up. You've probably seen a million ads for hair growth products and thought, sure, like that actually works. There are so many products out there, and it's hard to know which ones are actually going to do anything. That's why you should give Nutrafol a closer look. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand, trusted by over 1.5 million people. And it's not just hype. This is a supplement clinically tested that targets the root causes of thinning and shedding with a proactive approach. I have a couple buddies that are extremely happy with Nutrafol, and honestly, it's really awesome to see their confidence back at an all-time high. See thicker, stronger hair with less shedding in just 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering Locked On MLB listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com and enter promo code Locked On MLB. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code Locked On MLB. I've been reaching for my favorite jacket almost every day, my Doer jacket. And I love my Doer jacket and jeans because they are made with Cool Max that regulates your body temperature and wicks away moisture. Keeps you cool and comfortable as temperatures change. Great for any season. Doer combines classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. There's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable pants, but don't take our word for it. Go try on a pair for yourself. Doer just opened a store right here in Hayes Valley so you can feel the difference firsthand. Go check them out at 567 Hayes Street. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. I'm calling him the forgotten phenom. Reggie Crawford, the 24-year-old mountain of a man, entered the Giants system as a high-ceiling first-round pick back in 2022. He was 30th overall, famous for being a two-way threat, big upside both as a hitter and a lefty pitcher. Over the past couple years, however, injuries have become the main storyline for Reggie. After undergoing Tommy John surgery in college, he bounced back only to be slowed by a lat strain and most recently a torn labrum in his shoulder that required surgery. That last operation sidelined him for a very long time and basically threw a wrench in his 2025 season. When healthy, Crawford showed flashes that reminded scouts why he was picked so highly as a reliever in 2024. He posted a solid strikeout to walk ratio in Richmond. He struck out 19 batters versus 5 walks in over 9.2 innings, which earned him a promotion to AAA. And then the injuries started to trickle back. Another key change, and I thought this was really fascinating. Another key change, he's no longer being developed as a two-way player. The organization decided to have him focus primarily on pitching, which kind of makes sense just given the physical demands and the risk of continuing both paths while trying to manage health. I mean, like I said, he's a big dude. He's kind of Bryce Eldridge-esque. I don't know. You probably could have got him in a corner outfield position, but it was probably going to be first base anyway. And as we know, the Giants have plenty of first basemen and DH types. But I was a bit surprised that they didn't at least keep him hitting, right? It's not as if you're going to ask him to play center field or anything like that. I was a little surprised that they didn't at least keep a bat in his hand a little bit longer. But with the injury history, they clearly feel like his value is more so as a pitcher, and that's why it's going to be intriguing, and I'm waiting to see what happens in 2026 on his profile on MLB.com. When it looks at the San Francisco Giants and their prospects, he's still slated to make it to the bigs in 2026, which I thought was really interesting. They have him 30th on the prospect list now, just because, again, he's 24 years old, so he's not old, especially if he's going to come up as a pitcher. But they still have him slated to come up in 2026, and what that looks like in 2026. I know I was really high on him. I had watched him. I love my college baseball. I had watched him since UConn, and I just thought, man, this dude is a huge human. And when the Giants got him, I was really excited. I definitely was excited. Looking ahead to 2026, the outlook for Crawford is cautiously optimistic. If rehab goes well, he could obviously do what a lot of people are hoping that he is able to do, right? He could return to a role in the bullpen, likely in lower leverage situations and lower leverage innings to start. Given the recovery from the labrum surgery, the Giants still seem to believe in his arm strength and his pitch mix, fastball, slider, changeup. He's got potential, as well as just the crazy raw athletic tools. And again, that's why I really want to see him as a hitter, and maybe it's not done, but it seems like it is a bit done for now. If he regains the strength and control, there's still starter upside in the long term, but the safe bet for 2026 is to expect Crawford to be used in shorter stints, build up arm strength, and gradually take on new responsibility. And this was just a guy that was on my radar, but it's been kind of crazy just how nobody talks about him anymore. And I guess especially because the Giants and the pitching prospects, and we'll have more pitching prospects that we profiled throughout the summer, or I guess I should say throughout the off season. But this is just a name that I honestly was going through the prospect list and thought I had not thought of Reggie Crawford in a couple years now. And I wanted to give a check into a lot of people that I know were interested in what he could bring to the table. And seems like right now things got derailed. He is only 24. And if he is able to get healthy, you think about the mileage, maybe it could serve as a positive because he's not putting that type of mileage. He didn't put that type of mileage on his arm the last couple years here, or on his body in general. But that's the thing about these big dudes, man. Some of these big dudes, it's really hard for them to stay healthy, and it's kind of a gift and a curse. Obviously, they are the prototypes, right? When you look at, I would love to have a guy that is that big and strong, but it's sometimes hard to keep these dudes healthy. 6'4", 235. I mean, that's huge. That is huge. Okay. And some of these guys, it's a bit harder for them to stay healthy. And that's been the whole thing with Aaron Judge. And it's it's extremely impressive as his actual hitting is. It's extremely impressive that, he's dealt with injuries, but he's still in the outfield. I mean, you got a Giancarlo Stanton on his team as well, and he's just a DH at this point, but Aaron Judge still kind of doing it. From the Reggie Crawford point of view, the hope is to get him back on the mound, first of all, get him back on the field, first of all, get him out in Sacramento and see what he can do. The Giants right now, and we're about to talk about the bullpen, they need bullpen arms. They definitely need bullpen arms. I think it's a bit of an underrated bullpen, and that's what we're going to discuss. But the kind of later inning guys, I know you're going to get Randy Rodriguez back. But here's the thing about Randy Rodriguez. I thought he had a really good season. Didn't we feel similar about Camilo Doval at first, right? The thing about closers is it's good until it's not. And if it has to be a closer by committee, I know nobody wants that. But going into 2026, I think Randy Rodriguez obviously is going to be your closer that you start with, but we just watched this. We literally just watched this with Camilo Doval, and hopefully Randy Rodriguez is the guy moving forward. But you're always going to invite the ability for other pitchers to come in and see what they can do, and that's what I'm looking at with Reggie Crawford. But first of all, get him. Look, I don't even think he'll be closing in 2026. That'd be really impressive. You just got to get him back on the field. But once you're able to do that, then you can, move forward and see, okay, cool, this is what we have here, and we can feel good about it, or, we know that we have other options. So quick profile on Reggie Crawford, a name that I had not thought about in a while. One thing we're all thinking about right now is how that Giants bullpen is going to hang around and continue to get it done. I personally think the bullpen might be a little underrated, and I got some numbers to prove it. Don't go anywhere. One more segment with you. Locked On Giants, coming right back. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with the can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your $5 bet. One more segment with you on this beautiful, beautiful Friday, and we are discussing how to handle the Giants bullpen. There's been so much said about the Giants bullpen. Obviously, moving on from Tyler Rogers was a tough pill to swallow. But I look at this Giants bullpen, and I do think it's a little bit better than what other fans may give them credit for. I just believe that they have enough guys to keep the boat from sinking if the Giants are going to continue to hit. Right? No, this team is not winning a ton of games if the Giants only put up 1 or 2 runs a night or even 3. But honestly, that's most of these teams these days, right? My belief is all you have to do is consistently beat your ERA. I know I'm probably oversimplifying it, right? But the Giants ERA is 3.76, 3.76. During that stretch where the Giants scored more than that, right? The very end of August and the beginning of September, it was really hard for them to lose. During that stretch where they didn't, basically when I started Locked On Giants, those first 2 weeks, they lost a lot of games. Okay. And prior to that, the bullpen specifically has a 3.29 ERA. And obviously they haven't been great at closing games because they don't have a closer right now, but with the combination of longer relief guys who are just don't break and just bend like a Spencer Bivens, guys like that, he's got a 3.91 ERA. That's not great, but he's just giving the Giants a chance to survive, right? And just making the right pitches in the right spots. And obviously they have more matchup-based guys as well. I do think they have enough. I do think they have enough. Sometimes we're going over this and it feels tough, and you might think that the Giants, their bullpen is put together with paper mache and gum and not even duct tape, just regular tape, and the tape is even a little hairy so it doesn't stick as well. I don't think it's that bad. It's all just based on how the Giants hit the baseball. They have to hit. There are teams out there that don't have the same level of shutdown pitching, right? And specifically the bullpen. But you have to keep the pedal to the metal. Look, 3.29, they're going to keep you in the game. They're going to keep you in the game. But you're to a point now, and this is also playoff baseball, right? Playoff baseball, you got to scratch, you got to claw, you got to put down bunts like Jung-Hoo Lee. You know when I love when he does that. You got to find your way to 4, 5, 6 runs. That's it. Maybe the home run comes. The home run had been arriving each and every day for the Giants. Now you start seeing, okay, you're losing to the Diamondbacks 5-3. I'm probably oversimplifying this, but it's just that simple. You cannot look at this team and say, hey, we still need to be. Now, there are certain days where you would like that. If Logan Webb is out there, you probably feel like 3 runs will give you a shot. But it's 3 runs against the Dodgers. 3 runs against the Rockies and 3 runs against the Dodgers, 2 different things. And the Rockies, you probably should be scoring more than that because their pitching stinks. But 3 runs against the Dodgers is kind of dicey, even with Logan Webb on the mound, even with Robbie Ray on the mound. And then you got to start with Verlander. Look, Verlander's been great, but there have been some gritty games. And this idea that, Verlander is going to go out there and shut them down, I mean, that'd be great. But we, the collective we, can't count on that. And the Giants can't count on that. Then when you bring in the bullpen, I mean, the bullpen, as respectfully as possible, you're in the bullpen. All these guys, or I shouldn't say all of them, but 80% of these pitchers were drafted as starters. And you get into the big leagues, just like a lot of these guys were shortstops, a lot of these guys were center fielders. You get to the big leagues and there's somebody better than you at shortstop. There's somebody faster than you in center field with a better arm. Say, hey, you're a left fielder now. Hey, you're a second baseman now. Hey, you're a third baseman now. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but that's the middle of the field. That's what gets drafted the most. So a lot of these pitchers, they were starters. And it turns out, hey, you're better as a reliever. Okay, we don't think that you are a starter at this level. So the bullpen has to do their job, but we also have to be realistic in what that job is supposed to be. And if you're going to go out there and put up 2-3 runs like the Giants were doing when they were losing games, we can blame the bullpen if we want. But you look at the average runs and how a lot of these teams are doing it, they're finding a way. Maybe you had the 3-run homer, but you scratched across 2 more from small ball. That's what the Giants had been doing. For every game that the Giants have had with a home run, there's a Patrick Bailey sac fly, right? There's a sac bunt. There are other ways for them to hang around. So the bullpen at a 3.29 ERA, that is enough to keep them afloat and sneak into the 3rd wild card. I believe so. It's more so about the bats. And as from the closer perspective, it's Joel Peguero. That's what I would do. It's a tough spot. It's a tough time to do it. But Ryan Walker, I think he's kind of been yo-yoed around a bit, where he's been the closer. Then it was Camilo Doval. Then Camilo, he struggled. Then it was Walker. Then Walker struggled. You went back to Camilo. Then Randy Rodriguez got in the mix. Then Randy got in, and Randy was great. Then Randy got injured. So now Ryan, hey, let's get back up there. I just think that we know that Ryan Walker is not going to be the closer of the future. And I don't think Joel Peguero necessarily is slotted for that as well, simply because of Randy Rodriguez. But I would rather, for lack of a better term, prepare Joel Peguero for that and get something out of this season. Because let's say the Mets never lose another game and the Giants are out of it. I'd rather spend the last 15, 16 games seeing Joel Peguero in high leverage closing moments. Look, you're trying to win these games, but Ryan Walker just feels like he's maybe not there yet, right? Or maybe he was there, and because he's been yo-yoed a bit, you got to go in a different direction. So that's what I would do from the closer point of view, but we will see what happens. It is going to be a heck of a weekend. And if you're listening to this during the weekend, I appreciate you listening as well. We are back because we are, of course, Monday through Friday. Be sure to listen to us and download us wherever you listen and download your podcast. Be sure to like, subscribe on YouTube like you've been doing. Be sure to follow me on social media at @_Styles Files, Styles with an I, because we really do appreciate that. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Until Monday, we will talk to you then. Peace.